This video is sponsored by Writing Cliches because it is definitely a dark and stormy afternoon. If you can hear the rain or the thunder during the filming of this video, just know it is thundering and raining cats and dogs outside, but we're gonna go with it because sometimes you just gotta film a video, so we're gonna pretend like it is atmosphere. You may have noticed I didn't do a May or a June TBR. I just kind of meant to, and it never happened. But I'm coming back in July strong because we are doing not one, not two, not three, but 4 readathons. No one's stopping me, so why not? So the readathons that I am going to be participating in July are the book Junkie Trials, which is going to be my main readathon. Everything else is going to probably cross-reference with this readathon. I'm also taking part in Jane Austen July, which runs for the whole month of July. The Reading Rush, which runs from July 22nd to July 29th. And Medieval-a-thon, which also takes place for the whole month of July. So yeah, that's going to be a lot of books, 17 in total, but it's okay. I have a plan. We're only doing 5 of those as physical books, 6 of them will be audiobooks, and 6 of them will be graphic novels. This could be potentially a very long video, and I don't want you to have to sit here if you came for one readathon or the other, so I'm just going to put timestamps in the description box where I talk about the different readathons that I am doing. If you want to know what my full book Junkie Trials reading curriculum, plans, my full book Junkie Trial reading plans are, you will have to watch the whole video. I'm sorry. The only readathon that's not going to have a dedicated, section is Jane Austen July, and that's because I'm only fulfilling 2 of the prompts that they have for Jane Austen July. At this point, I'm going to be reading a retelling of one of Jane Austen's works, and I'm going to be reading one of Jane Austen's works. And you'll see those in the course of this video. I'm sure you'll be able to recognize which ones they are, because I will be saying Jane Austen. Anyways, without further ado, let's get into it. The book Junkie Trials is being put on by Rachel Marie. It is running from July 1st to July 31st, and the way it works is she has set up this really cool quest map and created 4 different teams. If you want any information on that one, I will have it linked down below. The basic goal is to pick a team. That team will have 5 prompts, including a group book prompt, and you have to complete your journey on the map. You can also be a super overachiever and try for all 17 prompts. We've already covered the fact that I'm an overachiever, yes? Yes, okay, great. I am officially declaring that I am on the Scribe team. No one is surprised by this. They do all of the writing. I try to do a lot of writing. Sometimes I don't, but don't come at me, internet. I just, writing is hard. The 5 prompts that I will definitely, hopefully, be fulfilling in the month of July are, for the first one that I have to hit is Dwarf Mount, and that is to read a book with at least a hint of romance. And for that, I am going to be reading Unequal Affections by someone whose name I don't remember, but it's there, and I don't feel like looking it up. This is a sort of retelling of Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, so there's one of our Jane Austen July picks. It's basically the story of Pride and Prejudice all the way up to halfway through the book, where Darcy proposes and Elizabeth goes, heck no. Except in this book, she goes, heck yes, because she's trying to do the best thing for her family, and this is really gonna help them out and help her sisters get married. So she accepts Darcy's proposal, and it is continuing on from there. And I am so, I just cannot wait to see what happens with this particular book. I love Pride and Prejudice. It is probably, possibly, most likely, maybe my favorite Jane Austen book ever. The second stop on my quest is Apothecary, and for that one I'm supposed to pick a random book from my shelves. Now, I needed one more book to work for Medieval-a-thon. I picked 5 of the shiniest books that were on my shelves. They all have some sort of shiny cover, either the cover is just really glossy or there's an element of shine, etc. These are the 5 books that I have picked. We're gonna put them right here. They're numbers 1 through 5, and I'm going to generate with my phone. I'm going to do a random number generator. Is it in focus? There we go. And we're going to hit generate. So I'm going to be reading Stepsister by Jennifer Donnelly. If you hadn't guessed from the title and the shoe, this is a retelling of Cinderella, and basically it's following the stepsister who, in the original fairy tale, they kind of cut off pieces of their feet so they'll fit in the glass slipper. So this is following one of those stepsisters who cuts off her toe and ends up getting the prince. And she has to figure out how to keep the prince after that. I'm really excited to read this though because I love Cinderella retellings, so this should be fun. Stop number 3 on my quest is going to be The Great Library, and for that one I am supposed to read a book that has been on TBR for a long time. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you've seen this book more than once, multiple times, and you're probably thinking, Margaret, why haven't you read that frickin' book yet? I just haven't, but it is happening today. Not today, it's happening this month, and that is Cinder by Marissa Meyer. Speaking of Cinderella retellings, this is a Cinderella retelling in space. It's got a cyborg Cinderella. I am super excited to be reading this book. Finally, I love her Renegades series, and so I'm just really excited to see one of my favorite tropes from an author who I already adore. The fourth stop on this quest is going to be The Drowning Deep, which is to read a book with really rich world building, and because I have to read it anyways, and because I love his world building, I'm going to be reading The House of Hades by Rick Riordan. This is the July book for Demigods Anonymous, which is a Rick Riordan book club that I run with Kinsley Lee T and Min Kobayashi. I will put all the information for that down below in the description box so you can see our latest video, which was about Mark of Athena, which is there, my favorite book ever in all of the world. But this is a very close runner-up. I love it. This is following the events of the Mark of Athena, and things are just really screwed up for all 7 demigods in this book. Percy needs a vacation. Annabeth needs a vacation. They all need vacations, okay? But specifically Percy and Annabeth, because they are on this cover just going through it right now. This is my favorite series in the world. I love it so much. I'm so happy to be rereading this. It completes a piece of my soul. I've always been obsessed with Greek mythology, and I really like how Rick Riordan reworks Greek mythology and kind of modernizes it and brings it to the present day. He has such great reinterpretations. I love him. If you haven't read any Rick Riordan books, what are you doing with your life? The fifth and final stop on this quest that I am undertaking is The Bookie Grail, which is the group book Stardust by Neil Gaiman. I probably will not be reading this particular copy because it is a movie tie-in edition, and it's not even that great of a movie tie-in edition. And I don't particularly like them because they have pictures in the middle, and it drives me nuts because it messes with the feel of my book. Not my favorite book that I've ever read. I actually prefer the movie. You're gonna be seeing this one again a couple of times. I don't remember much, but it's got like a star that falls from the sky, and this guy who lives in the regular world, it ends up crossing into this magical world. It's Neil Gaiman. It was really interesting. I'm not the biggest fan of the ending. I feel like the movie had a slightly more hopeful and happy ending, but still it was a good book and it was entertaining, and it does have a really cute romance, so I might forgive it eventually. It is time to talk about what I will be reading for The Reading Rush. The Reading Rush is put on by Ariel Bissett and Raylene. I will have all of their information down in the description box along with their website. There are 7 prompts for The Reading Rush. One of them is a non-book prompt, and that is to read a book in the same spot the entire time of the that you're reading that book. So basically, like, if you're reading that book, you're going to be in that spot. You don't have to like sit there for like 7-8 hours reading a book. I wouldn't be anyways, because I will probably just pick one of the graphic novels to complete that prompt. They're not doing the read 7 books prompt this time around, but I still would kind of maybe like to actually read 7 books in that week's time. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I do have 4 graphic novels on this list, so I might be able to do it. Going on to ones that are actually tied to books, though. The first prompt that you need to do is to read a book with purple on the cover, and for that, I'll be reading Ouran High School Host Club, Volume 7. I love this series. It makes me so happy. It will also be fulfilling the prompt of A Glimmer for the Bookie Trials, which is to read a book with a beautiful or colorful cover. I love these covers because I love this art. Also, it's very colorful. This is about Haruhi Fujioka, and she is a high school student at Ouran High School. And she is a scholarship student there, and so she actually accidentally ends up breaking something that belongs to the host club, and they're like, well, you're gonna work this off by joining our host club and working for us, because it was a really expensive vase and they're all really rich, and she's not, because she's a scholarship student. What they don't know at the beginning is that she is actually a girl, but she kind of likes to dress a little bit androgynously, and they assume that she is a boy. And so it's a really interesting series that like really just like plays around with gender dynamics and explores those both for the male and the female, and I really love it. The next prompt for the Reading Rush is to read a book that you meant to read last year, and for that I'm going to be reading Orange Volume 2 by Ichigo Takano. I was supposed to read this last year. I've tried to read this so many times because I really like the first volume. It's sad, it's heart-wrenching, but I did really like the first volume, and I want to continue reading. It's about a girl named Naho who gets a letter from herself from 10 years in the future, and so she's like, oh, I don't know that I trust this letter, but then things that were in the letter start happening, and so the letter is basically telling her to protect this one student at their school who is no longer with them in the future. This is also going to fulfill the book Junkie Trials prompt for Weeping Falls, because that is to read a tearjerker, and like, I don't cry with books, but a lot of people have said they have cried reading this. The next prompt for the Reading Rush is to read an author's first book, and for that, I am reading Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. I can never decide whether I like this or Pride and Prejudice better, but I love it. It is about these 2 girls that their father dies and they get kicked out of their house, and so now they're kind of living in a very reduced circumstances compared to what they're used to living on. And it's about them trying to figure out, how do we continue to live, how do we find husbands, yada yada yada, all of those good Jane Austen things. I love it. It's just, Jane Austen is so witty and so much fun, and I really enjoy her writing style. The next prompt is to read a book with a non-human main character, and for that I'm going to be reading A Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. I've been meaning to read this forever. This is about Carew, and basically she's been living in two different worlds. She has our world, and then there's this other world that she kind of has grown up in, and then it gets closed off from her, and there's stuff in her past that she doesn't remember. There are just a whole bunch of things that, like, I don't quite understand, but you've probably heard a lot about it in book 2. But it sounds interesting. There might be a forbidden romance, and like, ugh, that is my jam. I love some forbidden romance. And this will also be fulfilling the book junkie prompt for an atmospheric or horror book. The next prompt for the reading rush is to read a book that has 5 words in the title, and for that I'm going to be reading Ouran High School Host Club of Volume 8. 5 words in the title. I can't say all that much more about this series other than what I've already said, except that it is also going to fulfill the prompt for Empty Barrel Inn, which is to read an indulgent read. I love them. I'm indulging. The final prompt for the reading rush is to read a book to movie adaptation, and for that, you guessed it, I am going to be reading Stardust. I figure I like the movie anyway, so we'll do the comparison thing again, and also it would be a great installment in my series for Read the Book, where I'm supposed to read books and then discuss the movies, and I've fallen behind on that, but we're going to work on it. And that brings us to Medieval-a-thon, and so for that, I'm going to consult my handy-dandy phone and Twitter for all of the different things that you need to know. For this one, there are different, it's like kind of like almost like an RPG game with different levels you can reach and different items you can get. And if anyone knows me, basically anyone who's seen me playing Wizards Unite, I love things that have different levels and have you working towards stuff, and I just, yep, that's my jam. So, if you read 1 book, you are considered a peasant. If you read 2 books, you are considered a squire. If you read 3 books, you make it to the level of knight. If you read 4, you make it to the level of count or countess. If you read 5, you make it to the level of prince or princess. And if you read 6 books, you become the king or queen of the realm. This is being put on by Holly Hart's Books. It takes place the entire month of July. I will link the Twitter and the announcement video down below. To build your armor, there are various different things that you can read books and get. And so the first item that you could get is the crown, and that is to read a book that has some sort of fight for a throne. This is kind of going off of what I know of the rest of the series, but I'm assuming that there will be a fight for the throne in Cinder by Marissa Meyer. So you're seeing that one again. Next thing you can get is a helm, so your helmet, and for that you need to read a book with a dragon on the cover, and for that I will be reading I will be reading The Dragon's Guide to the Care and Feeding of Humans by someone who I don't remember. I have no idea what this is about. It just happened to be available on Overdrive, and it had a dragon on the cover, and it looked really cute, and it's a series with dragons, and so why not? This will also be fulfilling the prompt for the Book Junkie Trials for Draconic Isle, which is to read a book about dragons. The next item that you can get is your breastplate, and for that the prompt is to read a shiny book, and I will be reading Stepsister by Jennifer Donnelly. See, this is why Margaret needed a book that was very shiny. You can't really tell. I mean, it's not sparkly, but it's shiny, so we're going with it. The next item you can get are your leg harnesses, or what guards your thighs, and for that you need to read a really thick paperback. I'm going to be reading Orange Volume 2 by Ichigo Takano because she thick. Yes, you can applaud me for my brilliance in working some of these into 3 different readathons. The next item to get are your greaves, which protect your shins, and for that you need to read a book that has been yellowed over time. I'm going to hold 2 books up for this. Okay, you see this one's a little bit more yellow than the other one, and that is because I've had it for a while, and I'm assuming I left it in the sun. But that book is going to be The Roses of May by Dot Hutchison. This is the 2nd book in the Collector's series. The Collector's series follows a team of FBI agents, and they are tasked basically with investigating crimes against children. They've got a serial killer on their hands, and they are trying to find him in time to protect the main character of this book. Her name is Priya, and she is the sister of one of the serial killer's victims, and it looks like he might be coming back to come after her many, many years later. I love this series. This is a reread. The last book just came out in May, so I'm just trying to reread all of them because there's so much that I didn't remember, so I'm just trying to reread all of them before I read the last book. This is also going to count for the Book Junkie Trials prompt Forgotten Forest, and that is to read a book that is next in a series, so 2nd book in a series. Ta-da! The next prompt is the cape, and I am a dramatic gal, so I want me a cape. And for that one, the prompt is to read a book with red on the cover. For that one, I am reading The House of Hades by Rick Riordan because, look, that's red. Red on the cover. We've already discussed this in my Book Junkie Trials thing, so I'm not going to go into it again, but again, favorite series ever. I can't wait to read it. I love it so much. After that, you can get weapons. And because I am me, I'm going to get as many weapons as I can. Also, I needed 17 books, and so why not try for as many weapons as possible? The only one I will not be trying for is the bow, and for that one you have to read a book with elves. But who knows? There might be elves in one of these books that I am reading. Who knows? So to get the sword, you have to read a book with something pointy on the cover. For that, I'm going to be reading The Summer Children by Dot Hutchison. This is the third book in the collector series. Turns out that there is another serial killer on the loose. They are killing the parents of children who have been brought into the Child Protective Services in the US, which is basically like the parents have been reported for possible abuse. And so this agent keeps waking up with children on her front doorstep who have dead parents. And they're trying to figure out who is out here murdering these children's parents. Feathers have pointy ends, so that's what we're going with. It's a stretch, sure, I don't care. This also is going to fulfill the prompt for Orc Grove, which is to read a gruesome, gory, or gritty book. Let me tell you guys, there's blood on the cover. What do you think that means? Next weapon you can get are the twin daggers, and for that you need to read a book that has assassins. For that, I will be reading Stardust by Neil Gaiman, because I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, there are a whole bunch of assassins that keep coming after the main character. The final weapon I'm going to be trying to acquire, I'm just going to be one of those, I'm going to be like that character that they're like, hand over your weapons, and it takes me 10 minutes to hand my weapons over, which is fantastic because I've always wanted to be that character even though I can use 0 weapons. For that one, you need to read a book that has mercenaries in it. So I'm going with Aquaman Volume 2, Black Manta Rising. If you know anything about Aquaman, you know that Black Manta started out as a mercenary. Also, it's going to fulfill the prompt for Old Pirate Cove, which is to read a book that takes place, at least partially, at sea. It's Aquaman. He's literally in the sea the entire time, so, you know. So you'll note I said 17 books, and so far we've only gotten through 14. I need 3 more books if I'm going to get the ultimate, fulfill all of the prompts on the Book Junkie Trials map. Don't worry, I have 3. They're just not doubling for much. It's fine, everything's fine. So to complete Queendom Stones, which is to read a book featuring royalty, I will be reading Black Panther, A Nation Under Our Feet. This is one of the newest volumes of Black Panther. I meant to read this during Blackathon, didn't get around to it because, I don't know, I didn't want to read any graphic novels. I don't know what happened there. But I'm going to be trying to read this again. I have no idea what happens in this. I'm sorry, guys. I don't really look at my comic books other than to go, oh, here's a character I want to read more about. That's how I operate. I don't typically look up the storylines because sometimes in comics that can just spoil things. The second to last prompt that I have to complete is the Elven Guard, which is to read a book that has war, military, or political themes, and for that I am going to be reading The Queen's Rising by Rebecca Ross. I have no idea what this is about. The final book that I'll be reading for the Book Junkie Trials is to fulfill the prompt of Giant Squid, which is to read an intimidating book, which is a hard one because I read Les Mis. After you make it through Les Mis, like, nothing seems all like, I read 500-page books for breakfast. Not really, but like, that's like, I just, 500, 600, 700, 800 pages doesn't really seem all that intimidating. 1,000 pages, nah, but there is one that I have kind of been avoiding because it's just part of a really long saga, and that is Batman Nightfall Volume 2. I read the first volume a while ago, sometime last year. There's a review for it somewhere that I did, and it's time for me to continue on with this saga. So those are all of the books that I'm going to be reading for July. Like I said, many of them are actually audiobooks. I didn't really, tell you which ones they were because I have physical copies for all of them so I can keep track of my progress. But yeah, some of those are audiobooks. Obviously, some of them are graphic novels. It's a lot, but I can do it if I keep my mind focused and don't go into a slump like I did in April. I feel like I'm ready. I feel like I am ready for this month. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know down in the comments if you are participating in the Book Junkie Trials or the Reading Rush or Jane Austen July or Medieval-a-thon. Let me know if you're participating in any of those readathons that I am participating in. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also, hit that subscribe button if you want more videos about books and writing. That is it for now, my friends. I will see you later when we will talk about more wordy, nerdy things. Bye! Don't turn on me, you dumb thing. Oh, I have this all in a handy dandy Google Doc. And where did it go? This is such a good book. This gave me everything I wanted that I didn't get in the last book, but the last book also gave me everything I wanted. Everything's fine. It's all good. We're fine.